Michael's wife thought he was at a business conference in Thailand. For 7 days, his phone showed temple photos and work dinners. But there was someone the camera never captured: his 24-year-old tour guide. What happened between them wasn't in any brochure. Welcome to Explore the Southeast. This video is the continuation of our new series titled Tour Guides with Benefits. This is the second episode of the series. If you haven't watched the first episode, you can do that by clicking the link at the top right of your screen. It's important you understand the series from the beginning in order to make sense of the second episode. So let's continue with the video. And Michael isn't alone. Every year, millions cross borders seeking adventure. But some are searching for something else entirely. Why would someone fly 8,000 miles and risk everything for a connection that might last only a week? Behind every whispered rumor about tour guides with benefits lies human psychology most refuse to acknowledge: loneliness, fantasy, power, and the hunger to feel alive. And something even more primal, the hunger to feel alive, even if just for a moment. Today, we're exposing the 6 hidden motivations that drive tourists to cross boundaries they'd never cross at home. And by the end, you'll understand why this phenomenon says more about modern society than anyone wants to admit. Because Michael's story is just the beginning. Meet Thomas, 43, recently divorced, first solo trip in 17 years. He landed in Bali feeling invisible. At home, he was dad, employee, provider, never just Thomas. His tour guide, Wayan, noticed what others didn't. On day 3, she asked, "Are you okay?" Those 3 words broke something open. Suddenly, Thomas was talking about the divorce, the loneliness, the feeling he'd disappeared from his own life. Wayan listened without judgment. By day 5, they weren't just guide and tourist anymore. Here's what people don't understand about loneliness. It's not about being alone. It's about being unseen. When someone finally sees you after months of invisibility, your brain doesn't process it rationally. On the last night, when Wayan said, "You deserve to be happy," Thomas made a choice he never planned. The question isn't whether it was right or wrong. The question is, what does it say about our world when people have to fly across the planet to feel human again? But Thomas's loneliness was authentic. What about travelers whose motives are far more calculated, whose entire trip is designed around crossing lines they'd never dare cross at home? Then there's Marcus, 36, investment banker, married, 2 kids. On paper, he has everything. Marcus doesn't travel for culture, he travels for permission. Permission to become someone else. To break the rules that define his life back home. Permission to act on desires he's buried under years of responsibility and reputation. His trips follow a pattern: business conference for credibility, 5-star hotel for comfort, and a private tour guide who understands the unspoken arrangement from the first conversation. Marcus calls it living fully. His wife would call it something else. But here's the psychology Marcus won't admit to himself. It's not about the physical connection, it's about the power. At home, Marcus follows rules, reports to bosses, and plays it safe. But abroad, he controls everything. He controls the itinerary, the budget, the dynamic. He's not Marcus, the middle manager. He's Marcus, the mysterious foreigner with money to spend and no consequences to fear. The tour guide becomes his co-conspirator in a fantasy where he's interesting, powerful, and free. Where someone hangs on his words instead of scrolling past them. He's the main character, not a supporting actor in his own life. The thrill isn't breaking rules, it's rewriting them. When the plane lands home, Marcus boxes up that version of himself until the next trip. Because once you've tasted that freedom, ordinary life feels like a cage. At least Marcus knows he's playing a game. What about travelers who genuinely believe they found something real? So, before we continue, I'd like you to drop a like on this video if you're getting value so far. This means a lot to me, and I appreciate every like on this video. Thank you. Now let's talk about Kevin. Kevin is 45, IT consultant, chronically single despite trying every dating app, every friend setup, every singles event in her city. He didn't go to the Philippines looking for love, but when his guide Maria smiled at him differently, something clicked. She remembered his favorite foods, took him to hidden beaches and called him special. Asked about his dreams, not just her itinerary. By day 4, Kevin was planning his next visit. Here's where it gets heartbreaking. Kevin had spent years feeling rejected. Every dating app match that ghosted him. Every first date that never led to a second. Maria made him feel chosen, desired, worth someone's time. What Kevin didn't see was the pattern. Her rehearsed compliments. 3 phones are buzzing constantly. Identical conversations with other male tourists. To Kevin, it was destiny. To Maria, it was Tuesday. He wired money for emergencies, bought her a laptop for video calls. 6 months and $8,000 later, Maria stopped responding. Kevin still defends her. It was real. And tragically, maybe it was. For him. But when you're starving for love, you can't tell the difference between nourishment and someone feeding you just enough to keep you hungry. Kevin wanted love. Marcus wanted power. But some want something even more hollow. David is 52, an empty nester watching his youth disappear. He doesn't want a relationship. He wants evidence he's still got it. His Vietnam guide, Lynn, is 26 years old. Every photo is calculated. David with his arm around Lynn, Lynn laughing at his jokes. Caption, "Living my best life." Back home, David's friends comment with envy and admiration. His ex-wife sees the posts, exactly as intended. His kids text him, confused and slightly disturbed. But David doesn't care, because for the first time in years, he feels relevant, young, desired. The notifications flood in, and each one whispers, "You still matter." Here's what David won't admit. Lynn doesn't care about him. She cares about tips, positive reviews, and the possibility of future bookings from his network. Every smile is transactional. Every laugh is customer service. David needs to believe it's real because the alternative, that he's buying companionship, is too painful. So he convinces himself there's something special happening. That age is just a number. That connection transcends circumstances. And when he returns home and the validation high wears off, he's already planning the next trip. Because the mirror still shows the truth he's trying to escape. But perhaps the most dangerous motivation isn't about others at all. It's about running from yourself. Robert is 44, corporate lawyer, dead marriage, kids who barely know him, a life that looks successful from the outside but feels hollow from within. He doesn't go to Thailand for the beaches. He goes to disappear. For 2 weeks, Robert isn't the man who missed his daughter's recital. He's nobody. And for the first time in decades, that feels like freedom. His guide, Isabella, doesn't know his story, doesn't judge his choices, doesn't expect anything except what's written in the tour contract. But when she offers more, a dinner that isn't on the itinerary, a hike to watch the sunset, a conversation that extends past professional boundaries, Robert says yes. But because she represents the exit door from his real life, every moment with her is a moment he doesn't think about the mortgage or marriage counselor. But here's the cruel irony. Escape has an expiration date stamped right there on the return ticket. Robert knows this. He's done this dance before in the Philippines, Morocco, and Colombia. Different guides, same pattern. 2 weeks of pretending he's someone else, then back to the life he's too afraid to change. Because temporary escape is easier than permanent transformation. And the guides? They become ghosts in his memory. Faces he can barely remember. Names that blur together. Evidence of all the lives he could have lived but didn't. The saddest part? Robert's kids will inherit his regrets, not his escapes. All these motivations, loneliness, power, validation, escape, they circle one fundamental human truth. But it's a truth most travelers don't want to hear. Thomas, Marcus, Kevin, David, and Robert. None were looking for a tour guide. They were looking for a mirror. Someone to reflect the version of themselves they wish was real. Tour guides become that mirror because it's their job. Everyone involved knows the game. The tourist knows the connection is manufactured. The guide knows they're performing emotional labor. But they play along because acknowledging the emptiness is unbearable. We live in a world so disconnected that people would rather buy intimacy from strangers abroad than build it at home. That's not a tourism problem. That's a human problem. So why do tourists want more than just a tour? Because we're living in the loneliest era in human history. The question isn't, why do travelers want more? The real question is, what's missing in our daily lives that we must travel 8,000 miles to find it? Comment honestly. Have you felt this connection abroad? And watch the next episode, because we're flipping the perspective. Confessions of tour guides, what they really think. The truth will make people uncomfortable.